I placed the camera on a Tuesday afternoon, the kind that looks like a smoke detector. The one I found on some website after 3 glasses of wine and too many suspicions swimming in my head. My hands shook as I screwed it into the ceiling of our bedroom, then another in the living room. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was a terrible wife for not trusting him. But Marcus had been different for months. Cold, distracted. He'd come home late smelling like cologne I didn't recognize. And when I asked where he'd been, he'd snap at me about not trusting him. Then he'd apologize, kiss my forehead, and I'd feel guilty for doubting him. And then there was my brother. Eric had always been my closest friend. Growing up, we were inseparable. When I married Marcus 5 years ago, Eric gave the best man speech and cried happy tears. He told me Marcus was the luckiest man alive. But lately, Eric was at our house constantly. He'd drop by unannounced, always when Marcus was home. They'd go to the garage together or out to the backyard, and when I'd join them, their conversation would shift. They'd get quiet, awkward. Just guy talk, Marcus would say with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I wanted to believe them. I wanted to believe I was imagining the tension, the way they'd exchange looks when they thought I wasn't watching. But my gut kept screaming that something was wrong, so I installed the cameras. I felt sick doing it, like I was violating my own husband's privacy, my own brother's trust. But I also felt desperate. I needed to know I was crazy. I needed proof that my marriage was fine, that my brother was just being a good brother, that I was inventing problems where there were none. I gave it a week. 7 days of acting normal, of kissing Marcus goodbye in the mornings, of texting Eric funny memes, of pretending everything was fine. 7 days of my stomach churning every time my phone buzzed with a notification from the camera app. I didn't check the footage during that week. I couldn't. I was too afraid of what I might find, or what I might not find. On the following Tuesday, exactly 1 week later, I sat in my car in the grocery store parking lot. I told Marcus I was shopping for dinner. Instead, I opened the app on my phone and started scrolling through the footage. The first few days were nothing. Marcus coming home, watching TV, falling asleep on the couch. Normal, boring. I started to feel relieved. Maybe I really was just paranoid. Then I got to Thursday afternoon. The timestamp read 2:47 p.m. I'd been at work. The bedroom camera showed Marcus entering the room. He was on his phone, smiling at something. Then the front door opened downstairs. I could hear it on the audio. Footsteps on the stairs. Eric appeared in the bedroom doorway. My heart started pounding. This was fine. Brothers-in-law could hang out. Maybe they were planning a surprise for me. Maybe. Marcus crossed the room and kissed him. Not a friendly kiss. Not a brotherly kiss. I watched my husband pull my brother into our bedroom, watched them close the door, watched them fall into the bed I shared with Marcus every night. Watched them touch each other in ways that made my stomach turn. I threw up right there in the parking lot, barely getting my car door open in time. My phone clattered to the pavement, the video still playing. I could hear them through the speaker, and I grabbed the phone and hurled it into the passenger seat. My whole body was shaking. I couldn't breathe. I sat there in my car, vomit on my chin, hands trembling, trying to understand what I'd just seen. My husband and my brother, my husband and my brother. The 2 men I loved most in the world. The 2 men I trusted completely. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for someone to knock on my window and ask if I was okay. I nodded, wiped my mouth, started the car. I drove home on autopilot, my mind completely blank. When I walked through the front door, they were both there, sitting on my couch, drinking my beer, watching my TV. Marcus looked up and smiled. "Hey, babe, did you get stuff for dinner?" I stared at him, at his smile, at the way he looked so relaxed, so comfortable, at Eric beside him, grinning at something on his phone. I forgot my wallet. I heard myself say. My voice sounded normal, calm. "I'll go back out." "Want me to come with you?" Marcus asked. No, I said quickly. I'll just be a few minutes. I went back to my car and sat in the driveway for 20 minutes, trying to figure out what to do. Should I confront them? Scream? Throw them both out? Call Eric's wife? Call Marcus's parents? But I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I couldn't do anything except sit there and try to process the fact that my entire life was a lie. Finally, I went back inside. I'd stopped at the store on the way and actually bought groceries this time. I put them away while Marcus and Eric sat in the living room, laughing about something. "You okay, Jen?" Eric called. "You look pale." "I'm fine," I said. "Just a headache." I made dinner. Spaghetti. I cooked the pasta, heated the sauce, made a salad. Marcus came into the kitchen and wrapped his arms around me from behind, kissing my neck. I wanted to scream. I wanted to claw his face. Instead, I leaned into him and smiled. "Smells good," he murmured. "Thanks," I whispered. Eric stayed for dinner. He told jokes. Marcus laughed. I pushed food around my plate and pretended to listen. When Eric finally left, I told Marcus I was going to bed early. My headache was getting worse. He kissed my forehead. "Feel better, babe." I went upstairs and locked myself in the bathroom. I sat on the floor of the shower with the water running and cried until I had nothing left. Over the next few days, I moved through my life like a ghost. I went to work. I came home. I smiled at Marcus. I texted Eric back when he sent me memes. I had dinner with Marcus's parents and laughed at his father's terrible jokes. And every night, I watched more footage. Thursday wasn't the only time. It had happened on Monday too, and the previous Wednesday, and probably dozens of times before I'd installed the cameras. They were careful. They only met when they knew I'd be gone. They'd text each other in some kind of code. I saw Marcus checking his phone constantly, smiling at messages. I felt like I was going insane. How long had this been happening? Months? Years? Had they been laughing at me this whole time? Did anyone else know? I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I lost 7 pounds in 4 days. Marcus noticed. "Are you feeling okay? You've barely eaten anything." "I think I have a stomach bug," I lied. He looked concerned, genuinely concerned, like he actually cared about my well-being, like he wasn't destroying me from the inside out. "Want me to take you to the doctor?" he asked. "No, I'll be fine," I said. That night, I lay in bed beside him and stared at the ceiling. He fell asleep within minutes, snoring softly. I looked at his face in the darkness and wondered who he was. This man I'd married, this man I'd built a life with, this man I'd imagined growing old with. I didn't know him at all. And Eric, my brother, my best friend since childhood, the person who knew me better than anyone. They'd both betrayed me in the worst possible way. But I still couldn't bring myself to confront them. Every time I opened my mouth to say something, the words died in my throat. What would I even say? How do you accuse your husband and your brother of something like this? So I said nothing. I watched them. I gathered evidence. I saved every video to a cloud drive, backed it up twice, and I waited. I didn't know what I was waiting for. Some kind of sign, maybe. Some indication of what I should do next. The sign came on Sunday morning. Marcus was in the shower when his phone buzzed on the nightstand. I glanced at it automatically, and my blood turned to ice. The message was from Eric. "Can't wait for next Thursday. I miss you." Marcus's response, saved in the thread above, "Miss you too. She'll be at that conference all day. We'll have the whole house." Thursday, my work conference. I'd told Marcus about it weeks ago, mentioned I'd be gone from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. They were planning it, right in front of me, using my schedule to arrange their secret meetings. Something inside me shifted. The numbness that had been protecting me cracked, and underneath it was a cold, hard anger. They thought I was stupid. They thought I'd never find out. They were using my home, my bed, my trust, and they didn't even have the decency to feel guilty about it. I heard the shower turn off. I put Marcus's phone back exactly where it had been. When he came out, towel wrapped around his waist, I smiled at him. "Hey," I said, "I was thinking. Your parents have been asking about visiting. What if we did a big family dinner next weekend?" My parents too. And Eric and Diane. Marcus looked surprised. Really? That's a lot of people. I know, I said. But I've been feeling disconnected from family lately. I think it would be nice. And your parents' anniversary is coming up, right? We could celebrate that too. He smiled. That charming smile that had made me fall in love with him. That's really sweet, Jen. Yeah, let's do it. Great, I said. I'll start planning. He kissed me and went to get dressed. I sat on the bed and felt my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. They wanted to make a fool of me? Fine. But they were going to regret it. Planning the dinner became my obsession. I threw myself into it with manic energy, making lists, calling caterers, picking out decorations. Marcus watched me with confusion and something that looked like relief. I'm glad you're feeling better, he said one evening as I scrolled through tablecloth options on my laptop. Better? I asked without looking up. You seemed really off last week, depressed or something. This is good. You seem happy. Happy. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled and showed him 2 different centerpiece options. Which one do you like? He barely glanced at them. Either is fine, babe. You have great taste. Great taste. I'd chosen him, hadn't I? Apparently my taste was terrible. I invited everyone personally. Marcus's parents, Richard and Patricia, were thrilled. We haven't had a big family dinner in ages, Patricia gushed over the phone. And it's so sweet of you to celebrate our anniversary. Marcus is lucky to have such a thoughtful wife. Lucky. Right. My own parents were surprised, but pleased. My mother immediately asked if I was pregnant. Why else would you suddenly want a big family gathering? Can't I just want to see everyone? I asked. Of course, honey. It's just not like you. You usually avoid these things. She was right. I usually did avoid big family dinners. Too much pressure to perform, to smile, to pretend everything was perfect. But this time, I wanted witnesses. Eric was the hardest call to make. I sat in my car outside my office for 15 minutes before I could dial his number. Hey, sis, he answered cheerfully. What's up? His voice made my stomach turn. That familiar voice, the one that had comforted me through breakups and bad days, the voice that used to mean safety. Now, it just made me sick. I'm planning a family dinner, I said, keeping my tone light. Next Saturday. Can you and Diane come? Sure, what's the occasion? Marcus's parents' anniversary, and I just thought it would be nice to have everyone together. Sounds great. Want me to bring anything? Just yourselves, I said. Then, because I couldn't help myself, you and Marcus can coordinate on drinks. You two have been spending so much time together lately. I'm sure you know what he likes. There was a pause. Just a fraction of a second, but I heard it. Yeah, okay, Eric said. We'll figure something out. After I hung up, I sat there shaking. He hadn't denied it, hadn't said, what do you mean, or we haven't been hanging out that much. He'd just agreed, because he knew. He knew exactly what he'd been doing. The week crawled by. I continued my routine, work, home, dinner with Marcus, friendly texts with Eric, weekly calls with my parents. I was performing my own life, playing a role that used to be real. Marcus's mother called midweek to ask if she could bring anything. I'm just so excited, she said. Richard and I were just saying how wonderful you and Marcus are together. Such a solid marriage, so much love and respect. I had to bite my tongue until I tasted blood. We're very happy, I managed to say. I can tell. Marcus talks about you constantly. He adores you, Jennifer. We're so grateful you're part of our family. After that call, I locked myself in the bathroom at work and cried for 20 minutes. At home, things were getting harder. Marcus kept trying to be affectionate, and every touch felt like acid on my skin. He'd reach for me in bed, and I'd pretend to be asleep. He'd try to kiss me, and I'd turn my head at the last second so he'd get my cheek instead of my lips. Are you mad at me? He asked one night. No, I lied. Why would I be mad? I don't know. You just seem distant. I looked at him, really looked at him, at his concerned expression, his slightly furrowed brow, the way he was trying so hard to seem like a caring husband. I'm just stressed about the dinner, I said. I want everything to be perfect. He relaxed immediately. It will be. You always make everything perfect. Perfect. Nothing about this was perfect. Nothing about us had ever been perfect. I was just too blind to see it. Thursday came, the day they'd planned to use my absence. I got up early and got ready for my conference. Marcus was still in bed, watching me dress. "What time will you be home?" he asked. "Probably around 6, I said. "Maybe later if there's networking stuff." "Okay, I'll probably just work from home today. Get some projects done." Work from home. Right. I knew exactly what project he'd be working on. I kissed his cheek, grabbed my bag, and left. But instead of driving to the conference downtown, I parked 3 blocks away from my house and opened the camera app on my phone. I couldn't help myself. I had to see it. Had to confirm that I wasn't crazy, that this was really happening. At 9:47 a.m., Eric's car pulled into my driveway. At 9:51 a.m., my bedroom camera showed them together. I watched for 30 seconds before I had to turn it off. I sat in my car, hands shaking, fighting the urge to drive back and confront them right there. But I didn't. I went to my conference. I sat through presentations about marketing strategies and networking opportunities. I smiled at colleagues. I took notes. I ate a sad sandwich during the lunch break. And the whole time, all I could think about was them in my bed. When I got home that evening, Marcus was cooking dinner. The bedroom had been cleaned, sheets changed, everything put back in place. "How was the conference?" he asked, kissing my forehead. "Informative," I said. "That's good. I made your favorite, chicken parmesan." We ate dinner together. He told me about his day, the project he'd been working on, a phone call with a client, some joke he'd seen online. All lies. Every word that came out of his mouth was a lie. "How's Eric doing?" I asked casually, stabbing at a piece of chicken. Marcus's fork paused for just a moment. "Eric? I don't know. Haven't talked to him in a few days." "Why?" "Just wondering. He seemed stressed when I talked to him about the dinner." "He's probably just busy with work," Marcus said. I nodded and took another bite, chewing slowly, swallowing past the lump in my throat. That night, after Marcus fell asleep, I went downstairs and opened my laptop. I downloaded all the footage from Thursday and saved it to my cloud drive. Then I did something I'd been avoiding. I scrolled back further. The cameras had cloud storage that went back 30 days. I started watching, fast-forwarding through empty hours, slowing down whenever I saw movement. They'd been meeting at my house every week. Sometimes twice a week. Always when I was at work or out with friends. Always in my bed. I found footage from 3 weeks ago where they'd laughed about something, lying tangled in my sheets. I turned on the audio. "She has no idea," Eric said, grinning. "Thank God for that," Marcus replied. "Can you imagine if she found out? She'd lose her mind." Eric laughed. "My sister, the control freak, she'd probably try to plan the perfect confrontation." They both cracked up at that. At me, at my expense. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark living room, staring at nothing. They thought I was a joke. They thought I was stupid and blind and pathetic. Maybe I had been. But not anymore. The next morning, I went to our bank and checked our accounts. We had a joint savings account and joint checking. I'd been putting money into savings for years, planning for our future, a house, maybe kids someday. I transferred half of the savings into a new account in my name only. It was my money too. I'd earned it. Then I called a divorce lawyer and made an appointment for the following week. "Just a consultation," I told the receptionist. "I want to know my options." Over the weekend, I finalized the plans for the dinner. I confirmed the catering order. I bought new dishes and serving platters. I decorated the dining room with flowers and candles. Marcus watched me work with growing confusion. "This is really elaborate, Jen. Are you sure you're not overdoing it?" "I want it to be special," I said. "Your parents deserve it, and my parents will be so happy to see everyone together." "It's really sweet of you," he said, hugging me from behind. "I don't deserve you." Finally, something true. Eric and Diane arrived early on Saturday to help set up. Diane immediately started gushing about the decorations. "This is gorgeous, Jen. You're so talented at this stuff." Diane was sweet, too sweet for my brother. She was a kindergarten teacher with a sunny disposition and a genuinely kind heart. She thought Eric hung the moon. She had no idea who she'd actually married. I felt sick watching her smile at him, watching him kiss her cheek and call her babe. Another performance, another lie. "Can I talk to you for a second?" I asked Eric, gesturing toward the kitchen. His face flickered with something, concern, guilt, but he followed me. In the kitchen, I turned to face him. We were alone. Diane was in the dining room. Marcus was upstairs changing. "Yeah?" Eric asked. I looked at my brother, really looked at him, trying to find the person I'd grown up with, the person I'd loved my whole life. But all I could see was a stranger. "Nothing," I said finally. "Just wanted to say I'm glad you're here." He relaxed and smiled. "Of course. We're family." Family. The word felt like poison. The guests started arriving. Marcus's parents came first. Patricia in a beautiful dress, Richard in a suit. My parents arrived minutes later. Then Marcus's sister, my cousin, a few family friends. Everyone gathered in the living room with drinks, laughing and chatting. Patricia kept hugging me, thanking me for organizing everything. "You're such a wonderful daughter-in-law," she said, her eyes shining. Richard and I couldn't have asked for better. I smiled and excused myself to check on the food. In the kitchen, I gripped the edge of the counter and tried to breathe. My chest felt tight. My hands were shaking. I was really going to do this. In front of everyone. Was I insane? Should I just divorce Marcus quietly? Talk to Eric privately? Handle this like an adult? But then I thought about them in my bed. I thought about them laughing at me. I thought about all the lies, all the times they'd looked me in the eye and smiled while destroying me. No. They did this publicly. Every time they sat at my table and pretended to be faithful. Every time they hugged their wives and parents and acted like devoted family men. I wasn't the one who should be ashamed. They were. I straightened up, smoothed my dress, and went back to the dining room. "Dinner is ready," I announced with a bright smile. Everyone gathered around the table. I'd spent hours on the seating arrangement. Marcus at the head of the table, Eric to his right, Patricia and Richard directly across from them, my parents beside me, Diane next to Eric, perfect positioning for what came next. We ate. The food was delicious. The caterers had done an amazing job. Everyone complimented everything, asked for recipes, laughed at jokes. It was picture perfect. Marcus reached over and squeezed my hand. "This is amazing, babe. Thank you for doing this." Eric raised his glass. "To my sister, the best hostess ever. And to Marcus's parents, happy anniversary." Everyone echoed the toast. Glasses clinked, smiles all around. I stood up, my heart hammering in my chest. "Actually," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, "I have something I want to share. A special video. To celebrate family and love and honesty." I'd set up my laptop earlier, connected to the TV in the dining room. I walked over to it now, my hands only shaking a little. "Jen, you didn't have to do this," Patricia said, beaming. "Oh, but I did," I said softly. I could feel Marcus watching me. Eric too. They had no idea what was coming. I pressed play, and everything exploded. For the first 5 seconds, it was just a black screen. I could hear the audio though, the sound of a door opening, footsteps on stairs. Everyone leaned forward, curious, smiling. Then the image appeared. My bedroom. The timestamp in the corner, Thursday, 2:47 p.m. Marcus appeared on screen, walking into the bedroom, phone in his hand. He was smiling at something. "Is this from the security cameras?" my mother asked, confused. I didn't answer. I couldn't speak. My whole body felt like it was vibrating. On screen, Eric walked into the bedroom. "Why are you showing us Eric and Marcus?" Richard asked, laughing a little. What did these two knuckleheads do? Then Marcus kissed Eric. The room went silent. Not confused, silent. Not processing, silent. Completely, utterly silent. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. Everyone just stared at the screen as my husband pulled my brother into our bedroom and closed the door. The camera angle shifted to the one inside the bedroom. I'd edited the footage to be clear, but not graphic. You could see them on the bed, see enough to understand exactly what was happening, but I'd blurred certain parts. I wasn't trying to traumatize anyone, just reveal the truth. What the? Richard started to say. Turn it off, Marcus said, his voice strangled. He lunged for the laptop. I'd anticipated that. I'd locked the laptop in a cabinet earlier, the only key in my pocket. The TV was connected wirelessly. There was no way to stop it without breaking the TV. Turn it off, Marcus screamed, but I just stood there, watching everyone's faces. Patricia had her hand over her mouth. Her eyes were wide, horrified. My mother was shaking her head, like she could negate what she was seeing by sheer force of will. Diane was frozen, staring at the screen with a look of complete incomprehension. My father's face had turned purple with rage. Eric was on his feet. Jen, what the hell? Sit down, I said quietly. This is insane. You can't just... Sit down, I said, louder this time. He sat. The footage continued playing. The timestamp showed the date, the time, everything. Undeniable proof. Patricia made a choking sound. I looked over and saw her clutching her chest, her breathing rapid and shallow. Richard? She gasped. Richard, I can't breathe. Richard was staring at the screen, his face ashen. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 seconds. Dad? Marcus's voice cracked. Dad, I can explain. Explain? Richard's voice was barely a whisper. Explain what? Patricia's breathing got worse. She started hyperventilating, her face going pale. Mom! Marcus moved toward her, but she recoiled from him like he was toxic. Don't touch me, she whispered. Don't you dare touch me. Then she collapsed. It happened so fast. One moment she was sitting there. The next she was sliding off her chair, her eyes rolling back. Patricia! Richard caught her before she hit the floor, lowering her down. Someone call 911. Diane was already on her phone, her hands shaking so badly she could barely dial. I paused the video. The room erupted into chaos. Marcus was on his knees beside his mother, trying to help, but Richard shoved him away. Get away from her! Haven't you done enough? Eric was standing in the corner, his face white as a sheet. Diane looked at him, then at the frozen image on the TV screen, then back at him. That's you, she said softly. That's you and Marcus, in their bed. Eric opened his mouth, but nothing came out. How long? Diane asked. Her voice was eerily calm. How long has this been going on? Diane? How long? She screamed at this time, and Eric flinched. I don't know, he stammered. A few months? Maybe what? Maybe years? Maybe our entire marriage? My father stood up. He walked over to Eric, and for a moment I thought he might hit him. Instead, he just stared at him with an expression of complete disgust. You're not my son, he said quietly. Not anymore. Dad, please, don't call me that. Don't you ever call me that again. My mother was crying silently, her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. The paramedics arrived. I don't even remember who called them. Maybe Diane, maybe Marcus's sister. Everything was a blur. They loaded Patricia onto a stretcher. She was conscious now, but barely responsive, her eyes unfocused. Richard went with her, not even looking at Marcus. Dad, wait. Marcus tried to follow them. Stay away from us, Richard said, his voice breaking. Just stay away. After they left, the remaining guests stood in my dining room, no one knowing what to do or say. Marcus turned to me. His face was blotchy, tears streaming down his cheeks. How could you do this? He choked out. How could you humiliate me like this? Humiliate my mother? I stared at him. How could I? You could have talked to me. We could have worked this out privately, but you had to make it into a public spectacle. You had to destroy my relationship with my parents. Something inside me snapped. I destroyed your relationship with your parents? My voice was deadly quiet. I did that? Yes. You showed them that video, in front of everyone. My mother had a heart attack because of you. Your mother had a heart attack because her son has been fucking my brother in my bed for God knows how long. I screamed it. I didn't care who heard. I didn't care about anything anymore. You did this. You and Eric. You destroyed everything. It just happened, Marcus said, his voice desperate. We didn't mean for it to happen, it just, don't, I said. Don't you dare try to make this sound innocent. You planned this. You coordinated your schedules, you used my conference days, my work trips. You laughed about how stupid I was for not noticing. His face went white. You heard that? I heard everything. I have footage going back weeks. Every time you met, every lie you told, every time you touched him in my bed and then came down and kissed me goodnight. Diane made a sound like a wounded animal. She was standing very still, staring at Eric. Did you ever love me? She asked him softly. Of course Don't lie to me, not now. Did you ever love me, or was I just a cover? Eric looked at her helplessly. I thought I could make it work. I thought if I just tried hard enough, I could be the person you needed. So no, Diane said. The answer is no. She grabbed her purse and walked toward the door. Where are you going? Eric asked. She turned back and looked at him with such contempt it was withering. Away from you. Don't come home tonight. Don't come home ever. I'll have my lawyer contact you. Then she left. Eric stood there for a moment, then looked at me. Jen, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. Get out, I said. Please, just let me explain. Get out of my house. I'm your brother. You're nothing to me. I said it calmly, quietly. You're a stranger who looks like someone I used to know. Now get out before I call the police and have you removed. He looked like I'd slapped him, but he grabbed his jacket and left. My parents followed him out without a word to me. My mother was still crying. My father wouldn't meet my eyes. Marcus's sister and the few family friends who'd witnessed everything mumbled uncomfortable apologies and filed out quickly, desperate to escape the carnage. Finally, it was just me and Marcus. He stood on the other side of the dining room table, the one I decorated so carefully, surrounded by the remains of the dinner no one had finished. I loved you, he said quietly. I do love you. This thing with Eric, it's complicated, but it doesn't mean I don't love you. I laughed. It sounded hollow even to my own ears. You don't know what love is, I said. Love doesn't sneak around. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't make a fool of the person who trusts you most. I never wanted to hurt you, he said, but you did. Over and over. Every time you touched him. Every time you came home and pretended everything was fine. Every time you kissed me with the same mouth, or you'd kissed him with? He flinched. What happens now? Now you pack a bag and leave. I've already talked to a lawyer. Divorce papers will be filed on Monday. And Marcus? I looked him directly in the eyes. I never want to see you again. This is my house too. My name is on the deed. My money paid for it. You have no legal right to be here. So you can leave voluntarily, or I can call the police and have you escorted out. Your choice. He stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. The woman he'd married wouldn't have done this. She would have cried and begged and tried to fix it. She would have kept the secret to avoid embarrassing everyone. But that woman was gone. She died the moment I saw that footage. I'll get my things, he said finally. He went upstairs. I heard him moving around in the bedroom, opening drawers, packing. I stayed in the dining room, staring at the paused image on the TV screen. 20 minutes later, he came back down with a duffel bag. I'll come back for the rest later, he said. Call first. I'll leave it on the porch. Don't come inside. He nodded. Then, at the door, he turned back. I really am sorry, Jen. So am I said. I'm sorry I ever met you. After he left, I locked the door and stood in the silence of my house. The house that had been violated, that had been the stage for their betrayal. I looked around at the decorations, the half-eaten food, the disaster of what was supposed to be a family celebration. Then I went to the kitchen, got a garbage bag, and started cleaning up. I threw away the flowers, the fancy place settings, the centerpieces I'd spent hours choosing. All of it went into the garbage. It was past midnight by the time I finished. The dining room was empty, stripped bare. I'd even taken down the curtains. They'd been there when Marcus and Eric had walked past them on their way upstairs. Everything that reminded me of them had to go. I took a shower, scrubbing my skin until it was red and raw, trying to wash away the feeling of Marcus's touches, all the times he'd held me while lying to me. Then I got into bed, the same bed where I'd found them. Tomorrow, I'd buy a new one. Tonight, I was too exhausted to care. I lay there in the darkness and waited to feel something. Regret, guilt, sadness. But all I felt was numb. I'd blown up my entire life tonight. My marriage, my family, my brother, everything. And I didn't regret it, not even a little bit. The call started at 7 in the morning. My mother, my father, Marcus's sister. Eric's number, which I declined immediately. Unknown numbers that I suspected were Marcus or his family calling from different phones. I ignored all of them. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table, staring at nothing. My phone kept buzzing with texts. I finally looked at them around 9. Mom, we need to talk about what you did. Dad, that was completely out of line, Jennifer. Marcus's sister. My mother is in the hospital because of you. I hope you're happy. There were dozens more. Some from relatives I barely spoke to, all of them condemning me, calling me cruel, vindictive, heartless. Not a single person asked if I was okay. Not one. I turned my phone off and threw it in a drawer. The divorce lawyer I'd consulted called me on Monday morning. I turned my phone back on to check the time and it immediately started ringing. Mrs. Patterson, this is David Chen. We spoke last week about a consultation? Yes, I said. My voice sounded hollow. I heard about what happened at your family dinner. It's all over. He paused. Well, I assume people are talking. Small community and all? Great, so everyone knew. I want to move forward with the divorce, I said, as quickly as possible. Given the circumstances, that shouldn't be difficult. Do you have the evidence we discussed? Yes? Video footage? Timestamps? Everything. Good. I'll draw up the papers today. Given the infidelity and the fact that your name is on the house deed, we should be able to secure a very favorable settlement. Settlement. Such a clinical word for the destruction of a life. I don't want his money, I said. I just want him gone. I understand. But legally, you're entitled to... I don't care. Draw up whatever papers you need to. I'll sign them. After I hung up, I looked around my house. It didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a crime scene. I spent the next 3 days getting rid of everything that reminded me of Marcus. His clothes, his books, his stupid collection of vintage beer signs he'd hung in the garage. All of it went into boxes that I left on the porch. I texted him once, "Your things are outside. Pick them up by Friday or they go to the dump." He tried to call me 17 times. I blocked his number. On Tuesday, I bought a new bed. On Wednesday, I painted the bedroom. On Thursday, I rearranged all the furniture. By Friday, the house looked completely different. But I still felt like I was suffocating. I took a leave of absence from work. My boss was understanding. Someone had apparently told her what happened. The pity in her voice made me want to scream, but I accepted the time off anyway. I couldn't face people, couldn't handle the questions, the stares, the whispered conversations that would stop when I walked into a room. Diane called me on Saturday morning. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Jennifer?" Her voice was quiet. "It's Diane." "I know," I said. There was a long pause. "I wanted to thank you," she said finally. I blinked. "What?" "For showing me the truth. I know everyone is saying you were cruel, that you humiliated everyone, but you gave me the information I needed to make an informed choice about my life." I sat down heavily on my couch. "How are you doing?" She laughed, but it sounded broken. "I'm staying with my sister. Filed for divorce on Monday. Eric keeps trying to contact me, but my lawyer told him to stop." "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. Diane hadn't deserved any of this. "Don't be. You're not the one who lied to me for 3 years. 3 years? God. They'd been together for 3 years. Has he tried to contact you?" Diane asked. "Everyone has tried to contact me. I'm ignoring them all." "Good," Diane said firmly. "They don't deserve your attention. What they did," her voice cracked, "what they did was unforgivable." We talked for almost an hour, about the lawyers, about the families, about how everyone was blaming us instead of the people who'd actually done wrong. My mother asked me if I'd done something to drive Eric away, Diane said bitterly. If I'd been cold or unavailable or not attractive enough, can you believe that? I could. My own mother had left me a voicemail saying I should have handled it privately and thought about the family. They want us to be quiet, I said, to pretend it didn't happen, to protect the men who hurt us. Well, I'm done being quiet, Diane said, and I think you are too. After we hung up, I felt a little less alone. At least someone understood. At least someone didn't think I was a monster for refusing to keep the secret. But the calls from my family continued. My mother, my father, my aunt, all of them wanted me to apologize. To Eric, to Marcus, to his parents. Patricia is devastated, my mother said in one voicemail. She's still in the hospital. The doctors say she had a severe panic attack, possibly a minor cardiac event. This is your fault, Jennifer. My fault, not Marcus's for betraying his mother's trust in his wife, mine for revealing it. I called my mother back on Sunday evening. I couldn't take it anymore. Jennifer, thank God, she answered. We need to talk about this situation. No, Mom, you need to listen. I'm going to say this once, and then I'm done. Excuse me? I didn't do anything wrong. Marcus and Eric did. They lied to everyone. They betrayed their spouses. They destroyed their families. Not me. I just refused to keep their secret. But the way you did it, the way I did it was the only way they couldn't lie about it. If I'd confronted them privately, they would have denied it. They would have gaslit me, made me think I was crazy. They would have begged for forgiveness and promised to stop, and then they would have just gotten better at hiding it. You don't know that? Yes, I do, because that's what people like them do. They lie, and they're very good at it. My mother was silent for a moment. Then, your father and I think you should apologize to Eric. He's your brother. Family is supposed to forgive. Something in my chest twisted. Is he supposed to apologize to me? I asked quietly. He already has. He's devastated, Jennifer. He never meant to hurt you. But he did hurt me. For months. Maybe years. He came into my home, slept with my husband in my bed, and laughed about how stupid I was. And you want me to forgive him? He's your brother, she repeated, like that explained everything. He was my brother, I said. Now he's just someone who betrayed me. And if you can't understand that, if you're going to keep defending him, then I can't talk to you anymore. Don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being honest. I can't have people in my life who think what he did is okay, even if that means losing my parents. I hung up before she could respond. Then I blocked her number, and my father's, and Eric's, and everyone else who'd called to tell me I was wrong for exposing the truth. The silence that followed was deafening, but also, strangely, peaceful. I spent the next week alone. I didn't leave the house except to buy groceries. I didn't talk to anyone except Diane, who called every few days to check on me. The divorce papers arrived on Thursday. I signed them without reading them and sent them back. Marcus's parents' lawyer sent me a letter threatening legal action for emotional distress caused by my malicious actions. My lawyer responded that if they pursued it, we'd countersue for the emotional distress caused by their son's infidelity. We never heard from them again. Slowly, quietly, the dust began to settle. My marriage was over. My family was gone. My brother was dead to me. But I was still standing. 2 weeks after the dinner, I got a message from an unknown number. I almost deleted it, but something made me write it first. It was from Patricia, Marcus's mother. Jennifer, I don't know if you'll read this. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. I wanted you to know that I don't blame you for what happened at the dinner. I was angry at first, hurt, humiliated, but my therapist helped me understand that my anger was misdirected. You didn't betray me. My son did. You just refused to lie for him. I'm sorry for the things I said and thought about you. You deserved better than what Marcus gave you. I hope you can find peace. Patricia. I read it 3 times. Then I cried for the first time since the dinner. Not sad tears, not angry tears, relief tears. Because someone finally understood. Someone finally saw that I wasn't the villain in this story. I was just the person who refused to keep living in a lie. I responded to Patricia's message 3 days later. I didn't know what to say at first. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to stay angry, to keep everyone at arm's length. But she'd reached out. She'd acknowledged the truth. That meant something. Thank you for your message. It means more than you know. I hope you're feeling better. I never wanted to hurt you. I just couldn't keep lying. I hope you can understand. Jennifer. She wrote back within an hour. I do understand. More than I did before. I've learned some difficult truths about my son these past few weeks. Things I should have noticed years ago. I'm sorry I didn't protect you from him. You deserved better. Would you be willing to meet for coffee sometime? No pressure. Patricia. I stared at the message for a long time. Meeting with her felt dangerous. Like opening a door I'd worked hard to close. But I also felt drawn to it. Patricia had lost a son, or at least the version of her son she thought she knew. In a strange way, we'd both been betrayed. Okay, Thursday at 10? The cafe on Maple Street. Jennifer. When Thursday came, I almost canceled 3 times. I changed my outfit 4 times, settled on jeans and a sweater, then changed again. I felt like I was preparing for battle, not coffee. Patricia was already there when I arrived. She looked older than I remembered, more fragile. Her hair was grayer, her face drawn. She stood when she saw me, uncertain. Jennifer, she said softly, thank you for coming. We ordered coffee and sat at a corner table, away from other customers. For a moment, neither of us spoke. How are you? Patricia asked finally. Honestly, I don't know. Some days I'm fine. Other days I can't get out of bed. She nodded. I understand that feeling. How are you? I heard you were in the hospital. Panic attack, she said. A bad one. I thought I was dying. She stirred her coffee absently. In a way, I think part of me did die that night. The part that thought I knew my son. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. Don't be. You did me a favor. A painful one, but a favor nonetheless. She looked up at me. Richard and I have been in therapy, individual and couples. We're trying to understand how we missed this, how we raised someone capable of such deception. It's not your fault, isn't it? We taught him to hide who he was. We made comments over the years, small things we thought were harmless, jokes about certain people, certain lifestyles. We created an environment where he felt he couldn't be honest. She shook her head. I'm not excusing what he did to you. What he did was unforgivable. But I'm trying to understand how we got here. I hadn't thought about it that way. I'd been so focused on the betrayal, on the lies, that I hadn't considered why they'd lied in the first place. Has he tried to contact you? I asked. Every day. We haven't responded. Richard says he needs time. I think he means forever. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. I lost my son. Not to death, but to his own choices, and I don't know how to grieve that. I reached across the table and took her hand. We sat like that for a while, 2 women who'd lost everything to the same lie. I got a letter from Eric, I said eventually. I haven't read it. Are you going to? I don't know. Part of me wants to know what he has to say, but another part of me thinks it doesn't matter. Nothing he says will change what he did. Patricia squeezed my hand. You don't owe him anything, not even your attention. We talked for 2 hours, about the divorce proceedings, about therapy, about how to rebuild a life from ruins. When we finally left, Patricia hugged me. Thank you, she said, for being honest, for refusing to protect people who didn't deserve it. You're braver than I ever was. After that, Patricia and I started meeting regularly. Once a week, sometimes twice. We became unlikely friends, bonded by shared trauma and the refusal to pretend everything was fine. Through her, I learned that Marcus had moved in with a friend, that he'd been fired from his job after someone there found out what happened, that Eric's wife, Diane, had gotten everything in the divorce, the house, the car, most of their savings. Good, I said when Patricia told me. She deserves it. I also learned that my parents were still in contact with Eric, that they'd chosen his side, decided I'd overreacted, that family should forgive family. That hurt more than I expected. But it also clarified things. They'd made their choice. I'd made mine. Diane and I also grew closer. She'd found an apartment near her sister and was rebuilding her life one day at a time. We started having dinner together every Friday, just the two of us, talking about everything except our ex-husbands. I'm thinking about going back to school, she told me one evening. Getting my master's degree. I always wanted to be a principal, but Eric said it was too much work, that I should focus on being a wife. You should do it, I said. You'd be an amazing principal. She smiled, and for the first time since I'd known her, it reached her eyes. Maybe I will. Watching her find herself again was inspiring. She wasn't just surviving, she was growing, becoming someone stronger than she'd been before. I wanted that too. I went back to work after 6 weeks. My coworkers were awkward at first, clearly uncomfortable with what they'd heard, but I held my head high and did my job, and eventually things normalized. My boss called me into her office one day. Jennifer, I wanted to talk to you about a position that's opening up. Regional manager. It's a promotion, more responsibility, but also more pay. Are you interested? Regional manager. The job I'd been working toward for years. Yes, I said. Absolutely. Good. I'll forward you the details. You're my top candidate. I walked out of her office feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. 3 months after the dinner, the divorce was finalized. I got the house, my car, and half of our joint assets. Marcus got the rest and a restraining order. My lawyer had insisted on it after he showed up at my house drunk one night, pounding on the door and crying. I didn't feel victorious, I just felt tired, but I also felt free. I redecorated the entire house. New furniture, new paint, new everything. I wanted to erase every trace of the life I'd lived before, the life that had been built on lies. Diane helped me pick out colors and furniture. This is fun, she said, painting my living room wall a soft gray. Like we're both getting fresh starts. We are, I said. One evening, I found Eric's letter in the drawer where I'd thrown it months ago. I'd forgotten about it, pushed it out of my mind along with everything else. I sat on my new couch in my newly painted living room and opened it. The handwriting was familiar. The same scrawl I'd seen on birthday cards and Christmas presents my whole life. Dear Jen, I don't know if you'll ever read this. I don't know if you should. But I need to say these things, even if only for myself. I'm sorry. I know that's inadequate. I know sorry doesn't fix what I broke. But it's true. I never meant to hurt you. That sounds ridiculous, I know. How could I not know I was hurting you? But somehow I convinced myself it was separate. That what happened with Marcus had nothing to do with my love for you as my sister. I was lying to myself. Just like I was lying to you, to Diane, to everyone. I've been lying my whole life, Jen. Pretending to be someone I'm not. And I got so good at it that I forgot who I actually was. Marcus was the first person I could be honest with. And I clung to that even though I knew it was destroying everything else. That's not an excuse. There is no excuse. I chose to lie. I chose to betray you. I chose to use your home, your trust, your life as a backdrop for my deception. Mom and Dad want me to say you overreacted, that you should have handled it privately. But I think you did exactly what you needed to do. You refused to be complicit in our lies. You chose truth over comfort. I wish I'd been that brave. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that losing you is the worst consequence of all of this. Worse than losing Diane, worse than losing Mom and Dad's respect. You are my best friend, and I destroyed that. I hope you find happiness, Jen. Real happiness. With someone who deserves you. Someone who won't lie to you. I'm sorry. Eric. I read it twice, then folded it and put it back in the envelope. He was sorry. He understood what he'd done. He acknowledged the hurt, but it didn't change anything. Some betrayals are too big to forgive. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. I put the letter in a box in the closet and went back to my life. 4 months after the dinner, I got the promotion. Regional manager, with a salary that made me dizzy and responsibilities that scared and excited me in equal measure. "You earned this," my boss said when she told me. "You're talented, hardworking, and resilient. The company is lucky to have you." Resilient. I liked that word. It felt true. Diane threw me a celebration dinner. Just the two of us and Patricia, who'd become part of our small circle of survivors. "To Jennifer," Diane said, raising her glass, "and to new beginnings." "To truth," Patricia added, "and the courage to demand it." We clinked glasses, 3 women who'd lost everything, and were slowly building something new. That night, lying in bed in my quiet house, I thought about the dinner, about pressing play on that video, about watching everything explode. People still whispered about me, still called me cruel, still said I should have handled it differently, but I'd handle it the same way again. Because I'd learned something important. Protecting other people's comfort isn't worth sacrificing your own truth. I'd chosen truth, and truth had set me free. A year after the dinner, I barely recognized my life. I'd moved. The house, my house, the one I'd fought for in the divorce, I sold it. I couldn't live there anymore. Too many ghosts, too many memories of betrayal lurking in every corner. I bought a small condo downtown on the 8th floor with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It was modern and minimalist and nothing like the suburban house I'd shared with Marcus. It was entirely mine. Diane helped me move. She'd started her master's program and was thriving. Top of her class, making new friends, and dating someone she'd met at school. A nice guy who taught history and made her laugh. "This place is perfect for you," she said, looking around my new living room. "Clean slate, new beginning." "That's the idea," I said. Patricia came by later with a housewarming gift, a beautiful plant that she promised was hard to kill. "For your new life," she said, hugging me. Patricia had changed too. She and Richard had separated. Not divorced, but living apart while they figured out who they were outside of the life they'd built. She'd started volunteering at a youth center, working with LGBTQ teenagers. "I can't change the past," she told me once. "I can't undo the environment I created that made Marcus feel he had to lie. But I can help other kids know they don't have to hide who they are." It was beautiful, watching her transform her pain into purpose. As for me, I was thriving in my new role at work. The regional manager position was challenging, sometimes overwhelming, but I loved it. I traveled for work, met new people, solved complex problems. I felt competent and valued in ways I never had before. My team respected me. My boss praised me. I got results. And slowly, I started to remember who I was outside of being someone's wife or sister. I joined a book club, started taking yoga classes, made new friends who didn't know anything about the dinner or the scandal. To them, I was just Jennifer. Not Jennifer, who exposed her husband, just me. It was freeing. I dated a little, though nothing serious. A few coffee dates, one short relationship that fizzled after 2 months. I wasn't in a rush. I was learning to enjoy my own company first. One Saturday morning, I was at the farmer's market when I ran into someone I hadn't seen in over a year, my mother. We both froze. She was holding a bag of apples. I was carrying flowers for my condo. We stared at each other across the crowded market. She looked older, tired. Her hair was completely gray now. She must have stopped dyeing it. "Jennifer," she said quietly. "Mom." An awkward silence stretched between us. People flowed around us, oblivious to the tension. "How are you?" she asked finally. "I'm good. Really good, actually." She nodded, looking uncomfortable. "I heard about your promotion. Congratulations." "Thank you." Another silence. "I miss you," she said suddenly. Her eyes filled with tears. "Your father and I both do." Something in my chest tightened. I'd miss them too, more than I wanted to admit. But I'd also learned to live without them. "You chose Eric," I said quietly. You chose him over me. He's our son, and I'm your daughter. He betrayed me in the worst possible way, and you asked me to apologize to him." She flinched. "I know. I was wrong about that. I see that now." "Do you?" "Eric moved away," she said. "To California. He said he needed a fresh start. We talk to him maybe once a month now. He's—" She trailed off, struggling for words. "He's not the person we thought he was." I felt a pang of something, not quite sympathy, but something close to it. "No, he's not." "We should have supported you," she said, tears now streaming down her face. "You were the one who was wronged. You were the one who needed us. And we failed you. I'm so sorry, Jennifer." I stood there, holding my flowers, watching my mother cry in the middle of the farmer's market. I'd imagined this conversation 100 times. Sometimes I screamed at her. Sometimes I cried. Sometimes I calmly explained all the ways she'd hurt me. But now, actually standing here, I just felt tired. "I appreciate the apology," I said finally, "but I don't know if I can let you back in. Not right now." "I understand," she said, wiping her eyes. "But maybe someday?" "Maybe," I said, "but that's all I can promise." She nodded, accepting that. Then she did something unexpected. She handed me a piece of paper. "This is our new phone number. Your father and I got new phones. If you ever want to talk, we'll be there. No pressure, no expectations, just if you want to." I took the paper and put it in my pocket. We said goodbye awkwardly and went our separate ways. I didn't look back, but later, at home, I saved the number in my phone. I didn't call it. I wasn't ready for that, but I saved it, just in case. 6 months later, Diane got engaged. Her new boyfriend, James, the history teacher, proposed over dinner at the restaurant where they'd had their first date. She called me immediately, squealing with excitement. "He said yes. I said yes. Oh my God, Jen, I'm getting married." "That's amazing," I said, genuinely happy for her. "Tell me everything." She described the proposal in detail, the ring, his speech, how she'd cried happy tears. Then she went quiet for a moment. "I never thought I'd get married again," she said softly. "After Eric, I thought I was done, that I'd never trust anyone enough to try again. But you did," I said. "Yeah, I did. Because I learned something from that whole nightmare. The problem wasn't marriage. The problem was marrying the wrong person." I thought about that after we hung up. The problem wasn't marriage. It was marrying someone who lied to you every day. Maybe I'd try again someday too. Not now, but someday. When I was ready. When I'd healed enough to trust again. For Diane's wedding, I wore a blue dress and stood as her maid of honor. It was a small ceremony, just close friends and family. Her family, mostly. She'd built a new life with new people who loved her for who she actually was. I was so proud of her. At the reception, she pulled me aside. "I wouldn't be here without you," she said. "You know that, right?" "What do you mean?" "If you hadn't shown that video, I'd still be married to Eric, still living a lie, still pretending everything was fine while dying inside." She squeezed my hand. "You saved me. Even though it hurt like hell at the time, you saved me." I hadn't thought about it that way. I'd been so focused on my own pain, my own betrayal, that I hadn't considered what my exposure had given Diane. Freedom. "We saved each other," I said. Patricia was at the wedding too. She'd become close with Diane over the past year. Another unlikely friendship forged from shared trauma. "Look at you two," she said, smiling at us. "Thriving, both of you." "We learned from the best," Diane said, hugging her. After the wedding, I went home to my quiet condo and poured myself a glass of wine. I sat by my floor-to-ceiling windows and looked out at the city lights. 2 years ago, I was a different person. A woman who kept secrets to keep peace. Who valued comfort over truth. Who would have quietly divorced Marcus and never told anyone why. That woman was gone. The woman I was now? She demanded truth. She refused to protect people who didn't deserve it. She chose her own peace over everyone else's comfort. Some people still called me cruel for what I did, still whispered about the dinner, the video, the scandal, but I didn't care anymore, because I knew the truth. I wasn't cruel. I was honest. And honesty, while painful, was the only foundation worth building a life on. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Hi, Jennifer. This is David. We met at Diane's wedding. I was wondering if you'd like to get coffee sometime. No pressure. Just thought you seemed interesting, and I'd like to get to know you better. David. The tall guy who'd made me laugh during the reception. Diane's friend from graduate school. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back, "Coffee sounds nice. How about Thursday at 10? The cafe on Maple Street." I hit send before I could overthink it. Maybe it would go somewhere, maybe it wouldn't. But either way, I was ready to find out. Because I'd learned the most important lesson. I didn't need someone else to complete me. I was already whole, but that didn't mean I couldn't share my wholeness with someone who deserved it. Someone honest. Someone real. Someone who would never make me question my own worth. I finished my wine and got ready for bed. Tomorrow was Monday. A new work week, new challenges, new opportunities. A new life that I'd built from the ashes of the old one. And it was good. Really, truly good. Not perfect. I still had hard days. Days when I missed my family. Days when I wondered if I'd made the right choice. But then I'd remember that night. The video, the truth. And I'd know deep in my bones that I'd done exactly what I needed to do. I'd chosen myself. And that choice had saved me. I climbed into bed, my new bed in my new home in my new life, and fell asleep peacefully. No regrets. No second guessing. No wondering what if. Just peace. Finally, after everything, peace.